Hello, welcome back to your astrology transits, your forecast for the week. And this week, our moon is in say, the social signs. We started out with finishing up this week, or starting this week on Monday, yesterday. The moon was finishing up in Cancer. So being in Cancer, it made that nice conjunction with Jupiter, and that brought a lot of maybe feelings and emphasis on maybe doing selfless service for the family, maybe doing things around the home, maybe doing things about the home. Um, yeah, anything in that area. So the rest of the week, though, we are going to move into the other signs, the social signs. And this week, I just put this chart up, and then we just happened to have the natural zodiac right at this when I did this chart. So with Aries on the rise, so it just kind of puts how the natural houses are, like the first house. Uh, let's get the first house over here would be just your natural house of Aries. It's just the very first one. This is what we start the eastern horizon. This is the east over here, and this is where the sun is rising. So this is, typically where there we go. This is every morning, where depending on where you are, of course, the sun is rising, or anything is rising on this side. We have sun, we could have moon, we could, your planets rise, everything rises over in the east side. So just so you're a little aware of that. Okay, so we have our first house just naturally being Aries over here. And then our second house would naturally be Taurus. Second house, the third house is naturally Gemini, fourth house is naturally Cancer. And we kind of hit on these last week. We had our full moon in Taurus over on the side, and last week was very maybe more personal. These are very primal and personal part of the zodiac, this side over here. So each week, we go through a fourth of our zodiac, basically, with the moon traveling is what I'm saying. And this week we have the moon on our social side. So this side is like kind of actually, your whole left side is all about you, and your whole right side is about others. So we have you over here, and then not you over here. This is everyone else, right? Over on this side. Okay, but this is all your interactions. All right, so that's there. So this week we have the moon traveling all on that side. So what does that mean? That means that we kind of start out today, or late yesterday, leaving Cancer, moving in the sign of Leo. Leo has got the a nice, warm, dance around me, I am the light, validate me kind of energy. Could be drama. So this is where, we all get to be on stage. We all get to be critiqued. You're taking your whatever it is that you do, you think, to a stage, to out where people can see it. But then when we have the moon moves the next sign into Virgo, this is where we naturally either get critiqued or critique ourselves. So when the moon moves into this side, now we're taking that energy of like, well, how was I? How was it? And that's a natural response. So we're going to go into a little bit deeper, with the other planetary configurations this week with our Mercury retro and how that dovetails into it. But this can be used. I mean, Virgo can be very, I mean, every sign has its good and bad side, but Virgo can be very exacting and detail oriented, and to the nth degree, it can just go off the rails in nitpickiness. So that's the area that we have to balance. And then the moon moves into Libra, which is kind of representative of this side. It is now me and you. It is, this back and forth, this partnership, this whatever it is, these relationships, considering others. It's not so much all about you, like it was last week, all about each of us individuals. but this is more now how we can balance ourselves with others. And then near the end of the week, the moon moves into Scorpio. So we get into that sticky stuff, that deeper aspects, that investigative part. So all of that is where our moon is this week. And then the next week we have it in the upper part of the chart, and then we'll finish up 2 weeks at the final other side. So just to remember, just a quick repeat of this. The left side of the chart, all on this side over here, is about you, and on the right side is all about others. And then we have the top half versus the bottom half. Top half is all your outer world expression, how people see you, all the outward actions, where on the bottom half is all these inner hidden things behind the scenes, more primal urges. And then when we do that, and then now we have four areas of the chart, so we can say this very first area here, this octave is, your most basic primal, me. And then you get into me and you, and then here we have others, because it's now on this other side. And then we get into the fourth stage here of I know what's best. And then I'm going to dissolve the whole thing. So this gets back, we kind of flip-flop into those. So interesting to think about that with the moons. They don't always line up so nice and neat. Sometimes we get things on the tangent, right? We get things maybe starting at Taurus and going this way or whatever. But nonetheless, this week it's kind of nice and neat. Um, what else do I want to tell you about that? Okay, so that being said, it just kind of keeps your emphasis of the week because it's so easy to kind of get lost in a lot of the astrology things. I love listening to the different forecasts for the month, to get a different overview. I love the astrology podcast. I like Rick Levine. Um, it's a lot, and then there's like brainiacs, they are really smart people that break down a whole lot of astrology. And then I like to give it a little bit smaller bites, to break it down to like weekly, which is a lot, things that happen each week. So starting kind of with the moon and the gist of the moon, get our vibes. So this week it's venturing into that bottom right hand kind of side of the chart. Now, that's the archetypal energy, but of course you have to see where those signs are in your chart. This is just what it represents being in the sky, and that just that natural feel of things. Leo is naturally a fifth house kind of association, so we have like fifth, sixth, seventh, sort of eighth house energy with the signs, just that naturally. But see where in your chart it is. So if we were, it's like my chart, I have Leo on the ascendant. So for me, it's all kind of over on this side. It's sort of a repeat of last week. Leo's right here for me. So I have an emphasis on my first house, second house, third house, and coming into the fourth house this week because that's where I have those signs in my chart. I have Leo there, Virgo there, right? So this is, you have to check where in your chart, we have these energies. Okay. So look in your chart and see what type of other energies that you have and um, what they may represent. Okay, that's our moon. That's our moon report this week. Um, Now, moving on to the astrology. We just had Mercury turn retrograde, and you can see it hasn't moved. It won't. It's very stationary. I mean, it's still in space. It hasn't picked up momentum yet. When planets turn retrograde, they are very powerful. They're very strong because they are technically still, from our point of view, from the degrees. So we have that stillness, that intensity. Again, it's like if you had a candle flame and you moved your hand quickly right through it, you wouldn't feel anything at all. If you slowed your hand going over that really slowly, it would burn you, or you'd feel it very intensely, depending on how high above the candle flame. So that is like these planets in retrograde. So we have Mercury this week. So Mercury just went retrograde. Okay, so we have this. Now, Mercury was going this way, right? it was going deeper into the sign. It was at 6 Sagittarius. I just wrote over it. And it turns retrograde, and now it's going to start going this way. All right. So if we see that, then we notice that Mars is right next to it. Be clear this so we can see that a little better. So we have Mars at that 5 degrees, and Mars is moving forward, right? Is moving this way. So we're going to see that these two are going to conjunct again in a few days. So we have that energy to look forward to, and we'll get there with a few things. So we can see that this just turned retrograde. Um, Neptune is retrograde, Saturn is retrograde, Uranus just changed signs right down here. Let me okay, Uranus just changed signs. You can see it's at 29 and it says our retrograde at 50 minutes. So that was a few days ago. So now we have this energy. This is a very interesting we get to kind of wrap this up for the next few months, as this energy is now grounded. We have some grounding in the chart, other than when the moon moves through a earth sign. So this is going to ground things a little bit for us, I believe. And we get to revisit this a little bit more solid energy, this Uranian wants to expand and be electrical and be crazy and be hit and miss and be avant-garde and be out of the blue. And we're forcing it to settle down. We're forcing it to be a little more consistent, to finish a full sentence, um, to ground those ideas. But we're also, I feel we're going to maybe see some Earth activity. So we could have a return to some interesting Earth activity on the planet and or water. Earth activity causing water activity. We could have kind of tsunami weather. Why say that? Well, we have our Jupiter planet going retrograde at stationary, so it's like later today, it'll be retrograde. So that's at 25 Cancer, which is a water sign, right? And then we have Saturn at 25 Pisces, a water sign. And these two are trine, either I'm drawing it in red, but they're trine, but they're not perfect. And they're not going to perfect until next year. See what I mean by perfect? We have one at 09 and one at 23 minutes. You can see here, right? 23 right there, and then 09. So they're not going to perfect yet. And that will be, I think, June. So issues now that are around here are going to kind of be in for a while. I'll get back to that in just a second, but I just want you to see this. So we have this trine here. Very, very strong energy, but it doesn't quite perfect. But then now the sun, you'll see it's at 19 degrees. As the sun gets closer to like this, 26 degrees, and the sun moves a degree a day. So in like this next week, it's almost through 19 today. Tomorrow will be 20 degrees. So within 5 days, it's going to make a grand trine here, grand water trine. All right, while we have Uranus, the crazy planet, in an Earth sign. So this is kind of um, and it's going to not be exact, but it will be this kind of an energy here. And then we kind of have a grand kite again. We have this kite energy in the sky. I love these planetary patterns because they really are telling of different things. So trines are usually nice. I mean, we're gonna have this in for a while. These two, Saturn and Uranus, will be um, in effect for a bit. Now, let me get over and give you a little bit of like Jupiter turning retrograde. So Jupiter is in its own sign, I mean, in its exalted sign of Cancer. If it's not in its home sign, the exalted sign is the next place it likes to be. So it's in a place where it can expand. Jupiter expands everything it touches. So when it turns retrograde, it's like and it's in Cancer, right? So it's in like the moon's energy. Moon is home in Cancer, so it kind of has that moon feel to it. So when Jupiter turns inward in Cancer, it's like that's a protective sign. The tide shifts from expansion, orient outward, um, to nourishment inward. So we're not going blah outward, which is kind of what Jupiter wants to do all the time. When it's retrograde, it can turn that inward. So we can think of like ocean currents. We can think of them pausing, reversing, pulling blessings back to you, and it's Cancer. So it's home, roots, family, memory, emotional security. Growth takes on, kitchens over boardrooms, heirloom recipes, and heirloom seed saving over, the latest type of crazy recipes. Now, some of the things that we want to do um, when Jupiter retraces its steps in Cancer, it's going to bring up things that have to do with home and belonging, revisiting, where and with whom you feel safe, strengthening your boundaries, repair what's been upset with the home or anything to do with home issues, deal with anything maybe ancestral or on your lineage, recover family stories, family archives, recipes, rituals, whatever is that type of energy for you. And then emotional abundance. We can expand capacity for feeling, caregiving, and receiving care. Um, Shelter and real estate, because Cancer is also the home of that. So we have slow, thoughtful moves, rather than harried and hurried leaps and bounds like it has been. When it expands, it goes quickly. So when it's retrograde, it can spend more time and be a little bit more slow and thorough. Good for research and refinance or renegotiate, because also we have Mercury retrograde and it's going to go back into Scorpio, the water sign. So it will join that trio, kind of that trio energy. Um, we'll look at that in a little bit. So Mercury also turning retrograde. It's in Sag right now, which I'll get there in a minute. But then when it sweeps back into the Scorpio, into that sign, it'll reactivate this. So we also have to nourish what feeds you, food, rest, gentle routine, spiritual devotion. And then what do we need to do? Like, what's our retrograde medicine? So we need to ask ourselves, what does enough feel like in my body? What is enough in my bank account? It's enough in my home. So we need to edit our beliefs about safety and support. Are they inherited, protective, or outdated? And we also need to fortify our containers. We need to maybe uh, bolster up our savings buckets, our pantries, our larders, our calendars, our literal containers of different things in your home, and change things out. Mercury retrograde is also a good time to dump out and get rid of stuff or go through old files on your computer, update old things, update stuff on your computer, files, folders, backup disks, all that kind of stuff. Um, Shared meals, mutual aid. Those are all really good things. Practicing hospitality. And then we also have the Mercury retrograde conjunct Mars and Sag this Wednesday. Tomorrow, let me get back. You can see how close they are. So let me go ahead a day, and we can see there they are at 6 degrees. Um, so we had them conjunct last month and in Scorpio. Now they're conjuncting again, in because of the retrogrades in Sag. So what does Mercury and Mars represent? This is like truth with sparks. Mercury retrograde opens up reopens up, I should say, our conversations. Mars ignites them. So it's in Sag, so words want to just blurt out. Fast, bold, unabashed, unfiltered, um, toward a big picture, beliefs, ethics, politics, the Sagittarian things, travel, publishing, academia, sports, um, law, in that it's like the true essence of the law. What's right, not like legalese. Um, Also, this conjunction concentrates heat in the mind and the mouth. Brilliant insight meets hair trigger reactions. So we've got our blunt, Get our color again. Let's just get a different color. We've got our blunt Sagittarius, right? We've got our honest, just blurted out, and Mercury there. So this is like open. Be careful you don't open mouth insert foot. We'll get to some strategies in a minute, but that is like, if somebody says, "Do I look fat in this dress?" Don't say yes. Say, "Well, it's not one of your best," or something a little bit nicer, but the tendency is going to go, "Yes, it makes you look like a fat pig." Don't say that. It's not good. And see, Mars being there too, it's going to just egg it on. It's going to just, be right there and say that. So be very careful about those kinds of things this week. Um, so what else with that I want to tell you? Um, Yeah, okay. So how it can show up, we could have verbal flares. We can have old debates reignite. Be careful. We can have hot takes before facts are checked. You could just be fly off the handle sort of things. Impulsive statements. Um, be careful about like hitting the send button too snappy of a text. Statements that you can't unsay. So be careful with that. Careful, it's a knee-jerk kind of reaction, and fire is very reactionary. So um, it could also be like travel or tech snags. We could have last minute detours, rescheduled flights, service glitches, and then also when it's aimed well, because we have the Sagittarian, we got to aim it, ready, right, right, the man on the horse aiming the arrow. When it's aimed well, this aspect cuts through noise and pins the target. It just like pegs the target. So, best uses of it is like you can edit things, maybe really good, but don't publish it yet. Revise your pitches or how you're going to say something or how you're going to sell something, any kind of legal paperwork, anything you're going to have to do, hit send later this week, but you can go over it. This is the good part. And then because it's that Sagittarian energy, move the body first. Walk, stretch, yawn, burn some excess charge before anything physical. That just like move the body, move the legs. The Sag deals with the hips and thighs. So, move some of those big muscle groups. And then when you get into something, it's like argue like a philosopher. It's like define your terms, cite your sources, and then if somebody's giving you crap, say, I will ask for examples. Like, well, I want some specifics. Don't just blow over like, oh, it's the way everybody thinks, or that's what I saw, or Grok said, or Chat GPT said. Give me the facts on it. Okay. All right. So aim at this poignant area there. Okay, a couple of things I already said, like, yeah, slow the send, don't hit the send button right away. Read your messages aloud. And if your pulse spikes, maybe save it, sleep on it. And then especially, with the moon this week. Right now, in the next few days in Leo, it can be very reactionary. When it's in Virgo, it could be very good at analyzing, going through, sifting it out. That may be the better time. And then in Libra, it could get a little hung up with the back and forth. You might get a little stuck with, well, maybe I said it too soft. Maybe I said it too hard. Is the porridge too hot, too cold? Can be a little problem with that. And then when we hit the Scorpio at the end of the week, it could be laser focused or it could be stinging. So just kind of watch that. A couple of things, avoid absolutes. Always, never. Sagittarius loves the sweeping claims, so keep it testable. It's like, well, it's not always, it's most of the time, 80%. So that new expression, 100%, sometimes just drives me nuts. Okay. Um, yeah, extra buffer time. Make sure that if you're going somewhere, you have plans, that again, we got Mercury, so Mercury snafu, situation normal, all effed up. So plan some little extra time, back up things, back up IDs, tickets, take pictures of, that's like if you have it, so it can't get lost, take a picture of it, back up things as well as you can. Good to have printed copies of things because we may have computer glitches this week. Um, and then they're going to again be in that, 6-degree range. So if you have planets, especially immutable signs at that 4 to say 9-degree area, like if you have planets, of course, in Sag or opposite in Gemini, or on the squares, Virgo, Pisces, you can expect the heat lamp right on you. And we have the moon nodes right in Virgo in Pisces, right? So we've got this axis. Oh, I gotta get my thing again. So we have this axis, right? This mutable axis here, and then we have this mutable axis. Part of it there. Okay. So what we don't have right now is Gemini in here. So moon going through this might aggravate it. I'm sorry, this isn't the best line in here, but we've got these mutable signs. But still, if you have things in Gemini over here, that's going to be making squares and oppositions to all this. So this is the mutable axis is going to get a little bit more of the harder hit things this week with that stuff. Okay, so this we have so we're talking about that. Then moon goes into see Wednesday. What else did I tell you about Wednesday? That's mainly that there. All right, so Thursday now where they start to separate, see Mercury is now 5 degrees, retro Mars is past it, so they're going to start to separate. And oops, that flew there. Okay. All right, so then we have the moon going into Virgo, and then moon will go over South Node this week. I have Thursday, moon will be over the South Node. What does that mean? So maybe emotionally getting rid of things. This is like get decluttering emotionally. If you've got like zombie friends and relatives that are just like half dead, they need to be buried. Is this stuff, helping you? It's a kind of a scorpionic way to say it, but we all have a lot of these half dead things in our life, whether they're files, folders, hopes, people, relationships, and they drain energy. So this is, the retrograde cycle is the time. It's an in tide, out tide. This is the time to clean that type of clean house on that type of stuff. So here, Moon in practical Virgo over to South Node. This is the best time to do cleaning. And if you don't have anything in your house or you're unable to do it in your home, you can always do it in your mind. We have tons of clutter in our mind and on our computers and things, but it's like decluttering, moon emotion. We can use this to sort of declutter our excessive emotional crap that we carry around with us. All right, so let's see. And anything else on that I was going to tell you? So let's see, the 13th and 14th is kind of a quieter days. There's not as much astrologically by degrees. We still again have that trine in effect, and then we have the sun starting to again come into, we get the nice color. So we have the sun starting to come into this trine here. It's like 21 degrees, so it's getting closer. One thing I wanted to tell you about that. Let me get rid of this. Yeah. What else I want to tell you about? Let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah. The other thing about the Saturn, the sun will be coming into the Jupiter and Saturn trine this week. But it won't again perfect until next year. It get close. I showed you those degrees are really close. Um, but the sun will be, let's see, like November 16th, 17th, 18th, it will be, right there at that, and I'll show you in a minute. But what does it really mean? So the solar spotlights are on a bigger arc, kind of. The sun turns on the lights in a room. Jupiter and Saturn have been quietly furnishing. Jupiter in exalted Cancers, growing, protecting, belonging, and resources. And Saturn in Pisces shapes our compassionate structure, our boundaries, and sustains flow. So this could be about dissolving boundaries that serve us no good or strengthening boundaries that need to be there with the Saturn in Pisces. And Jupiter in Cancer, it's again growing what nurtures you, what is healthful again to your home, family, ancestry, lineage, all of those areas that we mentioned a little bit ago. And it's a trine. So trines are low friction. And it's like we can, this is a good week to like move forward with less resistance, especially on home and family needs, real estate, caregiving, spiritual practices, and like financial containment themes like budgeting. It's like, do we put a little curb onto Jupiter's expansion and we're going to use a little bit of the Saturnian structure, provided we keep things kind of simple in here. Now, it doesn't, the trine itself doesn't perfect until 2026. And why does that matter? So even though they're like really close, that supported, that supportive trine, the exact perfection is going to take a little longer. So it's kind of like whatever we're working on, it's still cooking. This is like a slow cooker. This is the crock pot. This is the big, this is the tough cut of meat that has to tenderize in the slow cooker. So basically it's like, it gives us clarity, it gives us some green lights, some small wins. It's like a preview of what is going to finish in like how it's going to consolidate in 2026 when they're both moving direct and ready to like lock plans into place. So this week, the Jupiter task, we want to envision like the generous outcome, right? The home, the savings cushion, a little nest egg, the family system that truly supports you. And that's always hard because it's not like the family that we inherit. It's the family sometimes that we choose and create, the our universal family. And then Saturn's task is like to define the vessel. It budgets our timeline, our policies, our boundaries, and that's the kind of growth, that without leaks. Those are the things that we need to patch and shore up. It's like where we've been neglecting things, where we've been allowing sloth, where we've been allowing people to get away with things and they shouldn't, to be what's the word I'm looking for? Entitled. We've been slacking on maybe establishing those boundaries. If somebody's been entitled and slacking and not pulling their weight, this is where it's going to have to change. All right. Anything else I wanted to tell you on that? Yeah, we have a Mercury this week. Like we have a Mercury sextile Pluto, and we can see Mercury here, and then it's a little wider, but we can see that it's getting, see, it's retrograding, so we can see Friday, Saturday. You see, by next Monday, it's perfecting. So this week, it's I was going to say Mercury is it's starting to get move a little faster. It'll get more into play, but let's just keep it there for just a second. So anyway, as it moves into that, you'll see its orb is active all week. So it's as Mercury's backs up and it starts to pick up speed. So Sagittarius toward Pluto, uh, so we have Sagittarius, Aquarius. The sweet spot lands around November 15, 16 when Mercury's like right at like up like 2 or 3 degrees Sag. So we get some good X-ray thinking, Mercury, Pluto. Curiosity turns investigative. You can spotlight things, motives, hidden agendas, hidden links. And then we can get strategic speech. Fewer words, greater impact. Excellent for negotiations, edits, and persuasive briefs. This is where we can get a little bit focused. And as Mercury's moving out of Sag into Scorpio, it's going to get fewer words and greater impact. And what's noise is, versus signal, what becomes obvious. It's like things to prune or cut out will become way more easy because we're going to see, as this tendency to bloviate is getting less and more focused, with Mercury here. Um, this is really good for research and due diligence, doing background checks, doing like audit trails, pulling records, source checking any claims. Anybody that's boldly saying crap, it's like, well, go check them out. It's good for editing and clarifying, cutting extra fluff from presentations or pitches or contracts or applications. Like this doesn't matter. It is all old. It's all bloviation BS. This is good for security sweeps, updating passwords, permissions, backing up things, reviewing and set you dealing with privacy settings because we're moving again closer to Scorpio. It's early next week. Right there, by the time we come back next week, it's like, here Wednesday, it's moving actually fast. It's see how fast this will get in one day. It goes 2 degrees there, boom. But anyway, you can see that it's moving that fast. Let me go back over here. Anything else? Let's see. Journaling. Um, Yeah. Oh, and then watch fors. Now, this is what to watch for with this. So, verbal power plays. So, keeping influence ethical. Avoid probing maybe where you haven't earned consent, on your side, and then anything coming at you also with a verbal power play. Also, obsessive loops. If you get stuck in something, like if a question won't let go or a schedule, if something just keeps looping around, it's like, well, we need to redefine this. Let's do some research and then decide. You don't have to decide something if we get this sort of a loop thing. It's like, oh, much as they hate this phrase, I got to circle back on this one, but really do. And then anything preachy, because still Mercury's in Sag and it tends to be very preachy, plus the intensity of Pluto, definitely could be, being on your soapbox about something here. So just watch that, or somebody being on their soapbox unnecessarily around you. All right, that's kind of the danger of that. Let's see what else as we move into next week. That perfects. Then we have the moon also. Here it is. It's late in the week. It's sweeping through Libra, and it's right about, if I just do it like a couple hours here, it starts to move. There it is. It moves into Scorpio. So we have moon and then Venus there. Venus is not liking that, but this is going to add to this grand water trine. Let me show you that one more time because it's going to be kind of profound how we have it. So we have these two planets in Pisces, right? And we got some distant north node. So this is, just put a little bit of that there. It's still half, 15, 10 degrees away, 10, 11 degrees, but it's still there. It's resonating in Pisces. And then we have the big planet here in Cancer. And then we're starting to get, here's all of our stuff here in Scorpio. So sun definitely, see right there, sun is 25, 25, 25. So we have it Monday that we're going to have, I mean, they're not perfected, but it doesn't matter. It's very close enough. This is going to be very nice. This is probably one of the better days of the month for doing things like that. Even though Venus is not in a good place, she's adding to that real nice benefic kind of energy into um, having a nicer overtone to this energy. It's like the nicety of the water trine is kind of given Venus a little bit better place. Again, she's like in her fall here. But then the moon is there. Moon is coming over right around that same time, and that you can see is the next. Let me just do the day, that way it won't um, clear that. Okay, so moon, you can see now it's like right there on Tuesday, which we'll get there, but I want to show you this before we get next week so you can take advantage of it. So we have the moon and Venus will be conjunct. The moon will be going over Venus um, on Tuesday. And then the moon will also go over the sun. So let's go the next day. We'll be here next week seeing this. So moon is what we'll pick up. Moon will have just gone over Venus, see, and then now it's going to conjunct over the sun, and then it'll go over Mercury next week. So we'll get that moon in Scorpio. Then the moon will join Mars, but Mercury will be well past that. So we're still going to be getting this big water trine in for a while. So even though the sun moves out of that area, Mercury will move in. See, as we see Mercury, look, it's there, it's 26. You're seeing these move a little bit, and then they've moved to 24. So next day, so there's that 24. Those are still there. And now Venus is going to come in, look at, and then Mercury right over into that whole big water trine through Thanksgiving. See it? I should move this out of the way so you can see it a little bit better. Just want to give you the heads up on this because this will be nice. Uh, let's just clear all drawings. Okay, so this will be nice. So the sun is already now moved into Sag and getting close to Mars, but then we still have this water trine in place. And then it's going to go from that 25 over to the 29. You see, like the moon now, by next week or 2 weeks from now, we already, I'm just kind of giving you a couple of other head things, but how this trine is just going to keep on. By the time the moon gets over here, now the moon is going to be going through all of this water up here, right? Moon, North Node, Saturn, there's the moon, and then there's Neptune. And then, we still have this is not moving very fast. And then we still have these over here. And then once Mercury goes direct, which it's here, um, on the 29th, and then it's going to go through that area again. Wow. So this water trine, this water energy, this emotional energy, this trine. So this is very, very interesting that this is going to be kind of riding along. I think this is the big kahuna all month, is look at we're here at the end of November, and we're still having planets and stuff going through this area, and then the moon is moving around. So, all right, so interesting. We all got our homework. Thank you for listening. Thank you for applying this to your life, and we'll see everybody next time. Bye for now.